What's up, guys? We are back with another review, taking a look at the next entry in the Axytoys Dinosaur Battlefield line. So 5K Toys sent this over for me to take a look at. This is the CARNOTAURUS leader figure. So I took a look at the regular Dino Warrior that they did, I don't know, it might have been a while ago at this point, I can't remember. And this is that same kind of figure, but with like a whole bunch of different crazy armor on it. So it comes in similar packaging to that figure. The one big difference is that this guy does not have like the lenticular cover that that other one had, but it's got like an opening box. So you've got a shot of the figure there on the front, and then on the back you've got product shots of both versions of this figure. There is an orange and a green one. There's also a Chase white figure, which happens to be the version I got. So you can pop this open, you've got kind of a write-up of what's going on with this line, sort of a small lore about it, and then you've got the figure there in the window, and that is the Chase white version. So yeah, let's do it. Let's pull this guy out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our Axytoys CARNOTAURUS leader figure. And again, this is a figure that I've kind of already looked at in one way, because this is a retooling of an existing figure with new stuff added onto it. So they've had a few releases of these Dino Warrior guys, and I took a look at the first one. I got the green one out of that assortment, and this again is the Chase white version. But I got the green one last time, and it was a pretty cool figure. It had some limitations when it came to moving him around. They've gone back and fixed some of those problems for this one. Like, he has new articulation. It moved pretty well to begin with. There were just some areas where it was locked down, and he now doesn't really have those problems. It is still an incredibly dangerous figure. Like, these things are just like spikes everywhere. You look at it wrong and it's gonna cut you. So, you know, I'll caution everybody, just be careful, because there's a lot of spiky parts on this thing, but it does look cool, so we've got that going for it. So let's see what he can do, see how he moves around. We've got a head that can look up really, really nicely. It can also look down pretty decently. Swivel side to side, and then you've got some rotation. The neck also moves, it's a ball peg, and then you've got an articulated jaw. Now, I'm going to stress this here, because it's not tons and tons of articulation at the head, but it is miles better than what it was previously. So they've gone back and made it work as, I think, as best as it's going to, because of the fact that this kind of dinosaur had one of those heads that lurches forward. And that's how this figure is too. Previously, it looked really weird when you tried to move the head around. This is not so bad. Like, it's got, you know, more natural movement side to side, and that's really what I was missing the last time, so I'm happy to see that. Arms out at the shoulders. They, of course, are going to rotate. So you've got full rotation. You do have to watch on these because of the shoulder pads. So like, you've got full rotation, but there is stuff in the way. Like, there's no way around that. You've got your bicep swivel here, single jointed elbows, but they're 90 degrees. And then you've got ball hinge wrists here. So in and out, rotation. Let me take this piece off real quick and I can show you. So you've got your ball hinge with full movement here, and then swivel. So you can get it to go any which way. This particular figure, the white one, I guess has the joints for the orange figure. That's kind of unsightly. It's not the biggest deal, but it's kind of annoying that he has those orange joints underneath that guard. The torso has a diaphragm cut, so he can go backwards slightly, but he can crunch forward really, really well. For such a big, thick, barrel-chested thing, that's really nice. You've got good tilt side to side, and it's also a swivel point here as well. So there's like full rotation all over that. Let's move that arm up. Legs go out pretty good. One thing I'll stress is that when you're moving this guy around, watch out for all the stuff that's on him, because all these little spikes and bits and bobs and doodads and all that stuff, all of it is just pegged onto the figure. So, you know, pay attention. If you hear like a little ping as something has fallen off of the figure, just watch out for it. He kicks forward about that far. Kicks backward, not really any. You do have a thigh twist up there. We've got single jointed knees. They go back, I don't know, that's not exactly 90, but it's okay. I've not found myself to be really missing it or anything. And then the ankles are the area where they went back to fix something else again as well. So you've got, the last figure did not have any rocker. There was a way to get around it, like the way they oriented the joint allowed you to have rocker action, but it wasn't actually a rocker. So now you have some. It's not the best thing in the world because there is stuff in the way, but you still got your hinge here too. So it's pretty decent. And I'm just happy that they went back to do that. Like, it's not It's not the best thing in the world. It's not the most articulation that's possible at these joints, but the fact that they went back and did that does say a lot about the fact that they're going to improve this figure. We do still have the tail, which I do think, is kind of a wonky tail because it's just this like light switch kind of flip thing here. You peg the tail on and it goes up and down. It is a bendy tail though, so that's kind of nice. So you do have some range at that tail, but he is mostly the same figure. Like if you got that first Dino Warrior, he's mostly that same figure, which is to say he moves pretty good, but he has increased articulation at the head and the neck area, specifically at, the head, the actual part of the head that you would consider a head, and his ankles, just to make those joints far more functional than they were on that first figure. I think it goes without saying, however, that the visuals on this thing are a major, major factor in why anybody would want to buy this. Anybody would want to get a hold of this thing because, I don't know, look at it. It's this huge dinosaur guy that is covered in the most crazy, spiky, gnarly looking armor that I think I've got out of any action figure. It's nuts. And again, he is spiky. This is dangerous. Like, you could hurt somebody with this thing. No joke. The spikes are spiky. They are as if they were real spikes. So watch out for him. Just watch out when you're handling him. He doesn't have the greatest feel when it comes to moving him around, but it looks terrific. And I think they did a really solid job changing an existing figure, because again, this is an existing figure. It's the same kind of thing, but changing him up enough that he is very different from the regular release. And this guy looks like he's the leader of some sort of dinosaur faction. I mean, he's got these like crazy skull pauldrons that are sticking off of him. He has all of this battle armor, which is completely destroyed and pitted and battle worn and covered in blood. He's got trophies hanging off of him. He's got like a spine hanging off his crotch, as you do. He's got some antlers hanging off his pauldrons. He's got this crazy like battle carapace thing that sits on top of his head. So this is removable if you want to do that. But he's got like these metal horns that stick out of his head. He's got battle wounds on him. He's got a big like scar down his face that's kind of leaking blood a little bit. He's got the soft good loincloth, and there's just so much like cool factor oozing out of this guy. That's really what it comes down to for this figure for me, is that it's very much something that seems familiar. Like, it obviously looks like it could belong with Mythic Legions, and I know that's kind of a thing that people do with this guy. He very much looks like he could be, fudged into that universe, but it's its own thing. It's absolutely pouring with detail. Like, every single inch of this figure has paint on it. Every single inch of this figure has sculpt on it. The entire body is sculpted, so all of that detail that you see is actual sculpt. It's not just paint work. The paint is over top of an already impressive, scaly, sculpted body. All of the armor, again, all this stuff is removable. You can take it off if you want a naked dinosaur. I have zero intention of doing that, but he can be nakedified if you want to do that. All of these little spikes, they're removable. I do find that to be slightly a bit of a negative. I understand why it is that way, but I feel like any day now I'm going to lose one of those little spikes and I'll just be forever upset about it. But it is a really cool design. He's big, he's bulky, he's beefy. The pauldrons really add a whole lot of bulk to this figure. All of the extra armor just makes him seem a little bit more thick in the areas, where he's got the shin guards, the big sort of metal skulls on the knee pads. He's got this humongous codpiece with these like tusks that are covered in blood. He's got a spine hanging from his crotch. Stuff like that. It's a gnarly looking action figure. It's a crazy design. And again, one of my favorite aspects of this thing is that it's the same figure basically, but when you get them side by side, and I will do that here shortly, when you get them side by side, they're very, very different. So they took an established figure that they had, changed up the idea of what they wanted to do with it, and just kind of went all out with some of this armor. And the armor is what makes this figure for sure. It is pretty crazy looking, but you can't discount the fact that it has some gnarly sculpt and all of this paint all over it. It's just a really cool looking figure that works incredibly well in the confines of what they're kind of go for here. And then here's a quick comparison between the other Dinosaur Warrior that I have from Axytoys. So this is the first one. This is the original, the green version, of course. And this is our new figure, the leader. And I mean, it's quite obvious that they're very, very similar. A lot of reuse all over these figures. A lot of the armor is exactly the same, but they've gone back and retooled some of it, changed some of the add-on parts to allow for him to be a little bit more gaudy. I mean, he even looks a little bit bigger just because there's so much stuff just hanging off of him. But it's still the same figure underneath there, which I think works to their strength. If you can redo certain little pieces and bits and bobs on this guy to make him look this different and obviously this much bigger in some instances, I'm all for it. So I was pretty happy with this guy to begin with. I did have my gripes about some things, but I think they've gone back and honestly changed enough with this armor setup, some of those articulation points as well, because, I mean, like, look, like, this is really all you could do with this guy is rotate that head around, and that was just not cutting it for me. But the changes on this figure have really done it to make him a lot more usable, while also looking incredibly different, and he certainly looks like he could be a leader for a bunch of these guys if you really went crazy with him. And then as far as some size comparisons go with other lines, so here we've got our leader in the middle. This is the Mythic Legion's Xylernian Guard on the right, a 1.0 style figure, and we've got Mythic Legion's Thistlethorn, everyone's favorite little squirrel dude, on the left, for a smaller Goblin style 2.0 figure to give you an idea what he looks like with Legions. So he's definitely bigger than Legions, but he's going to fit in with Legions pretty well. I think that's a major selling point for me, just to be able to mix him in with that stuff. And let's move this guy aside, and let's do a NECA, let's do a Predator. Don't do that very often. So Predators are going to be a little bit taller. Obviously, they are not related in any way, but that gives you an idea what he looks like next to a 7-inch, full-on 7-inch NECA figure. And let's take Thistlethorn aside, and let's do a Mezco, and it's got to be Conan because, of course, I mean, that obviously works. And let's move this guy aside, and let's do a Figuarts. So there's Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta for something much smaller. And let's do a Hasbro figure. So here is a Viper from G.I. Joe Classified. So it's a bigger figure. He's more in the NECA Mythic Legions-ish, Super 7-ish range. But he's going to look pretty good alongside Hasbro stuff, I think, for sure. Just because, I mean, Dinosaur guy, he doesn't have to fit in anywhere. He's just a Dino man. He should be a little bit bigger. Now, as far as accessories goes, the leader comes with a pretty solid spread. It's all very much themed to, this really gnarly looking design and him being the boss. So, him being the boss man, he gets a cape. And the cape is obviously a humongous big black cape. It's wired all the way around. My only real gripe with it is how it connects. And I'm assuming it connects this way because there's really no other way that I can think of for it to attach, since this is an existing figure. Like, I don't know if this was intended to have a cape until they decided to make the leader. So it uses this necklace, which is like a skull, and it has these black S-hooks that go back to these straps that come off the cape. And they wrap around the neck, and it looks okay. I'm not happy, really, with the way that it connects and how it looks, but the cape itself is pretty cool, and the wire works really well. It supports the cape nicely. Fabric is okay. It's not the greatest quality. It's obviously not something like you'd get from a customizer, but I'm never going to knock getting a wired cape from, the figure itself. I love not having to go to a customizer to get a wired cape. So that's really cool. It's big. It's really big. It's an absolutely massive cape. Tattered and torn, got holes in it, the whole 9 yards. We do get some extra hands with this guy. So he's got gripping hands on him in the box, and they are like oversized gripping hands, and you'll see why here in a minute. And we get another set of gripping hands. So that's, 2 hands with a smaller grip, and you'll see why here in a minute. And we get some open palm style posy kind of hands, gripping, like grappling style hands, so you get those as well. No fists. I kind of wish we had fists for this guy. That'd be cool. And then we get the little strap. So the first figure came with this, and you get this new, like, gem blade kind of thing. And I think the white one has a specific color. I think the white one is the one that, well, obviously the white gets the purple one, but I think it's the only one that gets the purple one. The other two, I believe, are shown with a blue crystal gem blade. But this thing's really cool. It's obviously very, like, mystical and kind of thing like that. Sculpt is really good. Even, like, the actual blade itself is fully textured. Like, it's not just smooth. It has, like, rocky, craggy texture to it. And then we get, what is obviously the coolest accessory. He gets this absolutely massive, like, this thing is humongous. This absolutely massive, like, big axe blade kind of thing, and it's just ridiculous. Like, it almost even looks like a dinosaur here. Like, this to me looks like a dinosaur head, and I'm assuming that's what it is, with like a tongue and screaming and teeth, the whole 9 yards, an eye right there basically. It's huge, it's heavy. He is still able to hold it really well, and this is what these big gripping hands are for, because it has a massive handle on it. But the sculpt on this is tremendous. It's really cool. Pitted and worn and textured and cracked and chipped, the whole deal. But a lot of paint on it. It's got a lot of wash on it. Gold metallic, silver metallic, gunmetal, red, bone down here on the hilt. And yeah, this is just a cool weapon. He doesn't come with like a ton of stuff, but what he has is all really good. Like, I'm not really unhappy with anything here. I really like both of these weapons for very, very different reasons. So he does come with a lot of cool stuff here. I'm really happy with the way they packed him out. I love the fact that he has the wired cape. Still not the biggest fan of that attachment, but overall, a lot of cool stuff here. So yeah, overall, I'm a lot happier with this release than I was with the first one. You know, again, I liked the first one quite a bit. I just had some issues with it. This guy alleviates a lot of those concerns because they fixed the head and the neck articulation. They went back and they fixed some of the ankle articulation. And ultimately, this thing just looks a lot cooler than the regular figure. And that's not a knock on the standard figure. He's a standard grunt dino warrior. The leader should look cooler, and he absolutely does. So they really succeeded on that front. I still don't necessarily love all the little bits and bobs that are just waiting to fall out. That's always going to be a concern for me. But for the most part, I think he looks great. I love the fact that he comes with that cape. It's not the best connection system to get it on there, but I understand why it's that way. I love this new crazy axe weapon thing. I like the little, mystical dagger too. And I like the fact that we get a bunch of hands with this guy. So they really beefed up this figure compared to that first one, which is exactly what this should have been. Changes, fixes, and just new stuff all around. So that's going to do it for this look at the Axytoys CARNOTAURUS Leader. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.